Welcome back. Before the break, we heard Army Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl in his only interview explain why he left his base in Afghanistan in 2009 and what it was like to be held by the Taliban for nearly 5 years. I want to bring in Oklahoma Republican Senator James Inhofe. He is a senior member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Nice to be with you, Brianna.
And you've actually said that Bowe Bergdahl should be charged with desertion. That is one charge that he's facing. He's also facing another charge that would carry a penalty of lifetime in prison. I know you've been briefed on this podcast. In it, we hear that Bergdahl is alleging that he was seeing this leadership failure in his Army unit and that he was leaving his post to draw attention to that. Do you believe his explanation?
No, I don't. You know, he's had a lot of time to think about this and how he's going to plead his case, and that's exactly what he's doing. One thing that I get upset with him about is that he is distracting us from the real issue, and that is turning the 5 terrorists loose. I mean, these are the worst of the worst, and everyone's concerned about Bergdahl. Now, that decision, Brianna, is going to be made by the Army, by the military, and I'm glad I'm not making it because I've already made up my mind. I go in biased, but I would say, having been in the Army, I know when you're assigned to something, you have to carry through with that duty. They were pulling people off to take care of the problem of Bergdahl, and so you know, I don't see I don't see that I could be unbiased.
Okay, well, but let me ask you about this, because the Army is going to make a decision. General Abrams specifically will make this decision. And at this point, you hear from those officials who are presiding over this, and it doesn't seem like they have a lot of interest in bringing charges or even some sort of punitive measure of discharge against Bowe Bergdahl. I mean, knowing that, I mean, what do you think about that, where it seems like if you read the tea leaves, nothing's going to happen?
Well, I think they ought to have General Odierno in there, someone who knows what it's like to be on the ground, to depend on these guys when things really get tough, and to know the harm that is done if there's any form of desertion. There are several forms of desertion. So my recommendation is you bring in Odierno and you'll get justice.
One of the officials or the investigator looking at this said that Bergdahl is delusional. And some have said, you know, specifically Bowe Bergdahl's attorney has said that the Army bears some responsibility for this. This is a guy who flunked out of Coast Guard basic training after a month, and then the Army took him in even though he'd been judged to have an adjustment disorder with depression. Is this only Bowe Bergdahl's fault? Are there other people who bear some responsibility here?
No, I'm sure there are, Brianna. There are people out there, there are bleeding hearts out there that are going to want to make sure that nothing goes. But keep in mind, a lot of those people are people who are not pro-strong military anyway. I'm not talking about the Army who's going to be passing some judgment. But they're out there, and they're always for somebody who's disruptive, and I can cite a lot of cases. And disruptive is a good word to use, because he was disrupting something that was very significant to, look, Kay and I have 20 kids and grandkids. I'm concerned about their safety. I'm concerned about what's happened to the military under this president, and I think he should be an example of what happens if you desert your job.
When I'm not sure if you're familiar with the first season of Serial, but it was about a murder in Baltimore, and the person who was in jail for it, Adnan Syed, following his appearance in this podcast, was given the chance to reintroduce some evidence, certainly something that is beneficial to him. Do you worry that with Bowe Bergdahl being a part of this podcast that is so wildly popular that he'll be getting some sympathetic treatment because of it?
Well, I think he might be. You know, people seem to bend over backwards to give sympathetic treatment, but if you've been in that situation before, you know that you have to depend on everyone else. You talk to anyone who's in combat, who's over there right now with these troops that we've sent over. Thank goodness we got them over there in Iraq. They depend on each other. And when I go over there and I'll eat in the mess halls with them, they depend on the guy sitting next to them. They don't depend as much on the rank and it's the relationship with each other. He deserted his friends. He drew them off of their duty. And I think that I would, as I say, I'm glad I'm not the one making the decision, because I've already decided.
Senator Inhofe, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Brianna.
All right, have a good